Throw her out. She is filthy, and she is scaring my guests." The words rang across the hospital lobby as a frail old woman trembled on a stretcher. The only person standing between her and the cold night outside was a nurse who could barely afford her own rent. "Throw her out. She is filthy, and she is scaring my guests." The hospital lobby froze. Visitors stopped mid-step. A child clutched his mother's coat. The security guard looked uncertain. On the stretcher lay a thin, elderly woman. Her skin pale and dry, her gray hair tangled from nights spent under open sky. Her coat was torn at the sleeve. Her shoes did not match. Her breathing was uneven, shallow, like each breath had to fight its way in. Standing beside her was Nurse Amara Collins. Her uniform was clean but old, faded from too many washes. There were dark circles under her eyes from double shifts. Her shoes were worn at the heel. She was not strong in size, but there was something unshakable in the way she stood. The man shouting was dressed in a tailored suit that fit like it was made for him alone. His watch caught the light. His shoes shined like glass. He was a major donor to the hospital. His name was known. His money built wings and halls and bright new rooms, and right now he wanted the old woman gone. Amara did not raise her voice. She did not argue with anger. She simply placed one hand on the stretcher and said the woman was not leaving. Not while she was this sick. The old woman's name, according to the ambulance report, was Evelyn. No address. No contact number. Just a note that she had been found unconscious near a train station bench. High fever, severe dehydration. Weak pulse. The hospital administrator hurried over, his face tight with worry. He glanced at the suited man, then at Amara. His eyes held fear, not for the patient, but for the budget. Rules were mentioned. Private hospital policies, sanitation concerns. Imaged out around them, people watched in silence. Some felt shame, some felt fear. Most felt relief that the anger was not aimed at them. Amara adjusted the blanket around Evelyn's shoulders. She could feel the heat of fever through the thin fabric. The old woman's lips were cracked. Her fingers trembled, as if reaching for something long gone. Inside Amara's chest, an old ache stirred. Years ago, she had worn a different uniform. Desert sand had clung to her boots. The air had smelled of dust and metal. She had been a combat medic, barely 20, kneeling beside injured soldiers under a sky that never seemed to end. She remembered the weight of a wounded friend in her arms. The sound of distant chaos, the heat against her skin, she remembered, promising that as long as she had breath, she would never leave someone behind. One night, she held her closest friend, Daniel, as he struggled to hold on. He had smiled through pain and told her that courage is quiet. It does not shout, it simply stays. He did not make it home. Amara did. But she carried that night with her always. The smell of dust, the feel of warm blood on her hands. A lesson that every life matters, no matter who sees it. When she left the service, she chose nursing because she still believed in that promise. She rented a small apartment with peeling paint and a leaky sink. She sent part of her paycheck to Daniel's parents every month, though they never asked. She lived simply. She worked hard, and now she stood in this bright hospital lobby facing a different kind of battle. The suited man stepped closer. He lowered his voice, but not his threat. He spoke of donations, of future projects, of consequences. The administrator cleared his throat and suggested transferring Evelyn to a public hospital across town. It would be more appropriate, he said. Gently, Amara knew what that meant. The public hospital was full, hallways lined with beds, waiting times that stretched long. Evelyn's heart might not survive the trip. Amara looked at the administrator with calm eyes and said the patient was unstable. Moving her could end her life. The suited man's jaw tightened. He was not used to resistance, especially not from someone whose shoes cost less than his tie. Security shifted uncomfortably. Evelyn let out a weak cough. Her hand slipped from beneath the blanket. Something small fell onto the floor near Amara's foot. It was a delicate gold brooch shaped like a tiny rose. Though old, it was polished, cared for. On the back were engraved initials and a date from decades ago. Amara picked it up gently. She placed it back in Evelyn's frail hand. The old woman's fingers closed around it as if it were the only solid thing left in her world. Across from her, the suited man went still. His eyes locked onto the brooch. A flicker of something crossed his face. Recognition. But pride is as strong. While he said nothing, the administrator finally ordered that Evelyn be moved. His voice shook, but the decision was made. Amara did not step aside. She stood straighter. Her voice was low, steady. She said that a hospital without compassion is just a building with beds. She said that rules mean nothing if they forget the human heart. Her words were simple, yet they carried weight. The suited man felt something stirred deep inside him, something he had buried long ago. He remembered a kitchen filled with the smell of fresh bread, a warm hand brushing his hair back when he was small, a gold brooch shaped like a rose pinned to a soft sweater. He had left home young, angry at poverty, angry at limits. He had built a fortune with relentless drive. Told himself he had no time for the past. Years ago, he and his mother had argued. Harsh words were spoken. He left and never looked back. Pride kept him from calling. Success kept him distracted. By the time he tried to search for her, she had vanished from the small house they once shared. Now he stared at the brooch and the trembling hand of a homeless woman. His chest tightened. Before anyone could move the stretcher, Evelyn's breathing faltered. Her eyes rolled back slightly. The monitor near the desk showed. She called for fluids. Oxygen. She pressed her fingers gently against Evelyn's wrist. Her focus narrowed. The world outside the stretcher faded. The suited man watched as the nurse fought for the life he had nearly pushed away. He saw the quiet strength in her movements, the way she shielded Evelyn from panic. Minutes stretched long. Staff rushed in to assist. The lobby fell into deep silence. Even the administrator forgot about donors and budgets. Finally, Evelyn's pulse steadied, weak but holding. Her breathing softened into a fragile rhythm. Relief moved through the room like a warm wave. The suited man stepped closer. His voice no longer sharp. He asked, almost in a whisper, if she would survive. Amara met his eyes. She saw not power now, but fear. She told him that healing needs care and presence, not just money. The words struck him harder than any public shame could. He looked at Evelyn's face more closely. Beneath the lines and the wear of hard years, he saw the woman who once packed his lunch, the woman who worked 2 jobs so he could study, the woman who wore a gold rose brooch on special days. His knees felt weak. He admitted softly that she was his mother. Gasps spread quietly among the staff and visitors. The administrator looked stunned. Amara did not react with surprise or judgment. To her, Evelyn had been a mother from the moment she arrived, deserving of care. The suited man took his mother's hand. Tears filled his eyes, not loud or dramatic, but heavy with regret. He realized that wealth had given him buildings and applause, but it had not given him peace. He turned to the administrator and said that no patient would ever be turned away for lack of status again. His voice carried authority, but now it carried humility too. He pledged support for outreach programs, shelters, and free clinics. Yet the true shift in power was not in his promise. It was in the silence of the crowd. Visitors who had looked away earlier now stood straighter. A nurse who had hesitated felt pride rise in her chest. The security guard lowered his head in respect toward Amara. One elderly man in the waiting area slowly began to clap. Others followed. The applause was not loud but steady and sincere. Amara felt warmth in her chest, but she did not smile widely. She simply nodded once, as if to say that this was how it should always be. The suited man approached her and said he almost made the greatest mistake of his life. Amara answered gently that true strength is not in power. It is in choosing compassion. When it costs you something. He carried those words with him in the days that followed. Evelyn remained in the hospital, recovering slowly. Her son sat by her side every day. He read to her. He held her hand. He listened to stories he had once ignored, The hospital changed too. Policies were rewritten. Staff were trained to see people before status. A new community wing was built, not with pride, but with purpose. As for Amara, she returned to her small apartment each night, her shoes still worn, her bank account still modest. But her heart was steady. She had kept her promise once again. Courage is quiet, it does not shout, it simply stays. That truth echoed far beyond the hospital walls, and somewhere in a bright private room, a man who had everything finally understood. That the greatest gift is not wealth, but the chance to stand beside the ones who once stood for you. If this story touched your heart, share where you are watching from and what you felt in this moment. Stories like this remind us that silent heroes walk among us every day. Subscribe for more stories that honor courage, dignity, and the quiet power of doing what is right.